After the Toei hack and the debut of Cure finale, opinions on Delicious Party have been mixed. Between rushed arcs and dropped elements, this innovative season's been facing some hurdles. Despite that, I still feel there's lots to love, so let's talk about Delicious Party so far. While Kira Kira focused on making sweets and running a restaurant, Delicious Party explores what food means to people. We're constantly shown the love put into it, as well as the memories food carries. This approach allows food to be important without forcing it into the plot at the expense of screen time. Speaking of the girls, unlike previous seasons, these girls get a lot of breathing room between debuts. Yui's our main character and sole Cure until episode 4. Her introduction's pretty great. She's helping out the soccer club and loves to eat, which are her main character traits. In a flashback, we see that Yui's been like this since childhood. Upon helping a stray cat in the rain, her grandma tells her that true strength is helping others. It's a great lesson that's emphasized by letting it take up a whole episode. We also see her help people all the time. The baby, Komekome, and Rosemary. She's constantly reaching out to others, and this will be important later on. Komekome is Yui's mascot and grows into a child as the show goes on. In episode 3, we see Komekome trying to help Yui and growing up a little as a result. Sadly, this is the only time her growth seems like a direct result of her actions. I'm not sure why she's growing, but perhaps the movie will answer that question. We've got a lot going on, so let's move on to our next main character. Kokone is introduced as rather reserved by her demeanor and how closed off she looks compared to the rest. While Yui's on foot and Ran's on a bike, Kokone is inside a car, isolated. It's a small detail that helps set her up really well. Even in her debut episode, she's a solitary rich girl whose classmates are too shy to approach her. This certainly isn't helped by her own lack of social skills. Much like Yui, Kokone's kindness is emphasized as she helped Komekome and the trapped rabbit. The two share food, and you can tell that she's touched by this interaction. It's another example of how food brings people together. The first time Kokone makes a friend is intentionally set at a bakery. Kokone's focused episodes usually cover her social ineptitude. The conflict is almost always a communication issue. She's used to being alone, so she really wants to be liked. It gets in the way of their episode 5 fights before Yui reassures her. It's a very relatable issue. Rosemary even encourages her to embrace her uniqueness. I'm excited to watch her growth in the future. Pam Pam is Kokone's proud dog who works really well off Komekome. One's a baby and the other's a proud adult, complete with speech. After the healing animals, there's a pretty high bar for mascots, so introducing these two with such a contrast helps solidify their characters. Much like Yui, Ran's food obsessed, but she runs a food blog. She's very high energy and the main comedic relief for the season. She's a lot more naive than the rest, often getting others in trouble. First, she realizes that the villains are using her blog to find recipes, then she holds a sale that attracts them to her restaurant. Time and time again, she has to learn that her impulsive nature might not always be right. Her main character trait is the sheer passion she has for food. Yui might love food too, but Ran's pretty intense. She's unable to contain her excitement about it and goes to many lengths to save it. While her ideas to help restaurants can be naive, her heart's in the right place. Lastly, she's a little weird, so I relate to her a lot. Apart from bringing people together, food also brings conflict between the girls. Ran and Kokone argue about different tastes, as Ran's a lot more carefree than Kokone is. It's a good conflict, and representing it with food first emphasizes the theme. The two are the better half of this team as they're almost opposites, creating unique situations. As a trio, I must address how underwhelming I find Yui. Don't get me wrong, I love her, but she's really plain among this crowd. While their main traits are loving food and kindness, that's something they all have. Even Ran had compassion for her bully. What does Yui really add to the group? It's not the first time we've had a trio like this, but I feel like it's the first time it's failing. Haruka was the normal one in her season, and so was Nonohana. However, Haruka wanted to be a princess the most, and Nonohana was willing to cheer her friends on. Even Manatsu had the most motivation energy among her teammates. Past leads who didn't have their own special thing still were connected to the story and themes, but Yui's character struggles to stand out. One trait I think could fix this is a stronger focus on her athleticism. She's seen playing football in episode 1 and uses a ball to attack in episode 6. This has all but disappeared in recent episodes, leaving her a bit meh. She's got a big appetite, so she should be strong and athletic, I guess. It's something that would help her stick out because the only traits she has are much better executed in her teammates. I think we need more focus episodes for her, and I really do hope they fix this because a weak lead usually makes for a pretty meh season. Yui's grandmother may have said that true strength was kindness, but it's time we see Yui's sporty side again. Early on, Rosemary's given a lot of screen time to build him up as the Cure's ally. He delivers the energy fairies and creates the delicious field that they fight in. Initially I was unsure they'd use him well, but he's turned out a lot better than I imagined. He's a capable ally willing to fight despite his current lack of powers. In episode 2 we even see that he's worried for Yui and wants to protect her from battle, no doubt speaking from experience. When he's not fighting, he provides small gags with his eccentric behavior and sadness from being out of the girls' lives. I get the impression he's pretty bored in that room of his. What's intriguing is his relationship to Cinnamon, a former cook fighter, but to talk about that, we'll probably have to talk about much like Happiness Charge, we've got a male ally / love interest in Takumi. It's not as heavy-handed, but there are some cute scenes between the two. He's pretty suspicious of Rosemary and fights as the masked hero, Black Pepper. Now it's important to note that Takumi's powers come from cooking them. This is the same place Rosemary's from, and they both fight using a delicious stone. Despite his lack of screen time, I think his plotline's the most interesting right now. His father Cinnamon was accused of stealing the recipe bond, but Gentle said that a phantom thief did it. Did his father betray his kingdom? I'd love to know. Now it's time for us to address the elephant in the room. Gentle is our main villain for the first core, and her arc is something. Initially she's a one-note villain, but it's pretty obvious she'll become a cure. The bigger issue is the road to that. I think her overuse was a huge mistake. Other villains turned cures rarely acted as the sole antagonist. This not only fleshed the villains out, but let their character growth be spaced out. Setsuna got to attack as Ias, along Sailor and Westar. Seeing how she behaved around co-workers / friends gave us a stronger impression of her character. Even Ruru had dynamics with Papal and her father. Gentle, on the other hand, works off Secretor, whose one gag is not as funny as it should be, and given Narcissus Toru's use, I don't see why they took so long to introduce him. He could have made his new device after Gentle left to give them an upper hand. Godats isn't that interesting either, he's just a face. In Doki Doki, the Selfish King was intimidating way before he spoke or did anything. Even Cryasu did this well. We don't need Godats to do something big, but he should at least be present. He should talk more, he should have specific goals, a personality. Much like Sweet, Gentle is a brainwashed villain. And it was bad then, probably worse now. At least Siren got to be a character, but Amane has none of that. Prior to Purification, we barely see her personality. While the current episodes are showing that, it would have been nice to have the villain be someone we actually care about. Now to be fair, we did lose 5 episodes, however nothing about the show implies brainwashing wasn't the plan. Between her early overuse and the choice to have her brainwashed, it's difficult to really care for Gentle or Amane as a character. She's just two completely separate and weak characters that don't add up to much. Watching Gentle lose over and over again only leads her to hurt the rest of Pippi's. Hell, outside the Cure debuts and heel turn, she didn't need to be in all of those episodes. Maybe we could have spent some time seeing her as a student. Amane barely shows up as we focus on Gentle for the entire core, making her human counterpart a complete stranger by introduction. In fact, I wish Amane did choose to be evil, perhaps to protect her shop since she feels responsible. Her siblings say she takes things on by herself, so maybe she became gentle in exchange for her shop's protection. Or maybe it's because they held that one parfait recipe hostage. I don't think I'm a better writer than anyone on this show, but there had to be some way of making this a more compelling arc. Her complete lack of autonomy makes me wish they just introduced a new character like Shiel or Emiru. I do like Finale's episodes right now, but her past as gentle casts a really dark shadow over this show. The girls' transformations this season are so pretty. Everything is flowing and bright. It's probably my favorite group transformation at the moment. I love how each girl gets to shine and all the musical flourishes they add. The music does a lot for this as the lighter instruments pick up toward the end. My favorite sequence is probably right before Spicy announces herself, when there's this really fun trill in the background. People seem to hate the final pose, and I don't think it's great either, but I guess I don't care as much. Now that we've covered that, let's talk about the fight scenes. Delicious Party's combat has been pretty consistent in my eyes. I don't think that it's ever looked terrible, and the Delicious Field has a lot to do with this. It's a really colorful location for the fights, and no doubt makes the animation easier. I really enjoy how creative they get with the cooking appliances, and I have no notes. What I do care about though is the stock footage. Normally I'm excited to see lots of attacks, but this time it's clunky. Between overuse and drawn out animations, the battles can feel slow or muddy when we have to stop to play with a mixer. I imagine the mixer attacks may have been spread out in the lost episodes, but they still bother me. The pump animation is so slow and I don't know why. It's not a particularly epic action and it's not like bows which take time to draw. The charge animation isn't even exciting. While I love the sub-attacks and the main finishers, the juicy mixers bother me a lot. Just compare how snappy the finishers look compared to the mix attacks. It's a stark difference. I think the easiest fix would be adding sound to that whirring animation when we're inside the mixer, because at least then there's something going on, but I do know that I'm being a bit petty, so if you don't care about this, let me know in the comments. Amane's transformation gets its own track, as well as much slower movements. Given the size of everything, I wasn't expecting much movement, but I do like the superhero vibe in some shots. I don't think that it's the greatest thing ever, but, I didn't even like her design or her arc. Cure Finale is fine. I enjoy her episodes, I just think those bulbous aspects on her dress are really gross. I don't like it when anything is too big on a Cure's outfit, because now it just looks disproportionate. Those strawberries are huge. The fruits on her are gigantic. Everything is a little much. Maybe that's what they're going for, but it didn't land with me. Her attack is really pretty too. It's another beam one, but the animation more than makes up for it. Overall, I think they could have gone much harder in the transformation. Maybe a smaller design, but we can't change the past. So, I'm enjoying Delicious Party, and I look forward to it. Initially, I thought it was going to turn out like Happiness Charge, having a lot of people not like it. But the biggest issue is that we have too much going on. There's everything in this season. If they can just balance that out, I'm sure it'll be great by the end. With that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time.